Thanks for being here at CCV. My name is Mike Breaux, and in case we've never met before, it's great to see you guys. I want to welcome our campuses, Lone Hill and Etiwanda Gardens, and those of you that might be in the fireside room, or maybe you're watching online. So grateful we get to all do this together. So let's give them all a shout out together. And San Dimas. Man, we're in a series that we're calling There Is More. And we're looking at some characters from the pages of the Old Testament section of the Bible. Like the first half, it's really kind of the fatter section. And we're looking at those characters from the Old Testament, just seeing how their more in their story might relate to us in 2019. It's pretty incredible the way there is so much correlation. And I've just been praying that this weekend would be an encouraging weekend for you, and even a challenging type of weekend for you, because the deal is we start this year with such hope and promise, don't we? But you know what research shows? Like this weekend is kind of a normal jumping off point for most New Year's resolutions. It takes about 5 or 6 weeks in, and most people will be right back in the same old patterns, doing the same old things. And it just doesn't have to be that way, because there really is hope for lasting change. There really is hope for inside-out transformation. There really is healing. There really is freedom. There really is more waiting for every single one of us. So I want to walk through a really hope-filled story. It's kind of an obscure story, actually, found in the Old Testament of the Bible. And the principal characters are a guy named Elisha. Ever heard of him? He lives in Israel, and he's a prophet, a chosen spokesperson for God. And there's this other guy who's a general with the enemy army, the nation of Aram, and his name is Naaman, and Naaman is a stud. I mean, Naaman is a tough guy, highly respected guy, described as a mighty warrior. I mean, this dude is a man's man, middle linebacker kind of guy. And then the unexpected happens. This tough guy, even tough guys, he gets a diagnosis of a terminal disease called leprosy. Now, leprosy was and still is in some parts of the world a disease with drastic effects. It started in the skin and then progressively went deeper until it affected every single internal organ in your body. And when you got that diagnosis, it was a social, relational, and physical death sentence with no known cure. I mean, it was terrifying. So here's how the story begins. Old Testament of the Bible, 2 Kings chapter 5. You have a Bible, you can do it, or an app, you can follow along, or you can watch the screens, and we'll put it up and we'll track along together. At this time, Aramean raiders had invaded the land of Israel, and among their captives was a young girl who had been given to Naaman's wife as a maid. Well, one day the girl said to her mistress, I wish my master would go see this prophet over in Samaria, talking about our boy Elisha. I think he could heal him of his leprosy. Now, I just think it's kind of cool that this girl cared enough about him to tell them that. I mean, obviously she wasn't bitter about like being a captive. She didn't see Naaman as, quote unquote, the enemy. She just saw him as another human being who needed some help. And she knew where he could find it. And I was just thinking when I read that, how I'm so grateful for carrying people like that in my life, aren't you? People who came to us and said, you know what, I think you ought to go to this meeting with me. You ought to check out CCV with me. You ought to go to students with me. You ought to try this counselor. You really ought to go to talk to this doctor. I think you ought to read this book. You ought to check out this podcast. I think it could really help you. I'm just personally grateful for people in my life who cared enough about me to point me where I could get some help. And so this girl does, and Naaman goes to the king and says, sir, we got this young girl in our house from Israel, and she said that there's a prophet over there that could actually heal me. So, your majesty, with your permission, I would like some time off and go over there and give it a shot. Well, the king says, absolutely. I'll send a letter ahead of you to the king of Israel to make sure that you get the best treatment possible, because I want nothing to hinder you from getting in to see this prophet that the girl was telling you about. So verse 5. So Naaman started out carrying as gifts 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, and 10 sets of clothing. He knew this might get expensive since it was out of network. The letter to the king of Israel said, with this letter I present my servant Naaman. I want you to heal him of his leprosy. Now, the king who received this letter, the king of Israel, was a guy named Joram. He came from the line of Ahab and Jezebel. Ever heard of those two people? They were not nice people by any stretch of the imagination. And Joram had continued the family tradition of evil and promoting the worship of idols and all the wild, immoral behavior that went along with all that. And like most kings, he was super political and super self-absorbed. So when he gets this letter from the enemy king, he gets mad. He gets suspicious, gets paranoid, sees this as some kind of like political ploy. Well, when word gets to Elijah, he hears about it. He sends the king this message. He says, why are you so upset? In other words, stop reading Twitter. Send Naaman to me, and he will learn that there is a true prophet here in Israel. Now, if you study the life of Elisha, you will know that when he says that, he's not saying, send him to me because I'm the man. No way. He was just trying to get this out of the political arena so he could move Naaman into a personal encounter with the true and living God. Because if you study the life of Elijah, you'll see he never draws attention to himself. His life goal was just to throw a huge floodlight on the goodness and the power of God. He just sees this as another opportunity to do exactly that. Verse 9. So Naaman went with his horses and chariots and waited at the door of Elisha's house. But Elisha never comes out. Instead, he sends a messenger out to him with this message. Go and wash yourself 7 times in the Jordan River. Then your skin will be restored and you will be healed of your leprosy. Well, Naaman gets ticked. Now remember, he's kind of a big deal. He's a general. He's a well-known warrior. He commands people to do whatever he tells them to do. Plus, he's got a letter from the king. And this was not a guy who was used to having to wait. So he says, I can't believe this. The guy, he sends a messenger out to me. I came all this way, and the guy won't even come out to personally see me. I thought he might just show up and wave his hand in the name of his God or something like that and heal me. But instead, he sends a servant out to me to tell me, go skinny dipping in the river. I could have done that back home. We have awesome rivers back home, much more impressive rivers than any rivers they have in this place. This is ridiculous. And he turns and he storms off. Now, in Israel, the Jordan River wasn't just another river. It had a special place in their history. When the nation of Israel escaped captivity in Egypt, you might have heard that story, how they went through the wilderness getting to the promised land, and Jordan is the river they eventually crossed over to get into the promised land. So it was seen as a significant reminder of their freedom and new beginnings. I mean, it's eventually where John the Baptist, you might have heard of that guy. He baptized thousands of people there in the Jordan River. Jesus himself was baptized in the Jordan River. Now, of course, this was long before John the Baptist and Jesus ever showed up on the scene. Plus, Naaman doesn't know anything about the history of Israel. But he was right. There was nothing magical about this river. It really wasn't any better than any of the rivers he had back home. There were no bubbling waters, no medicinal hot springs, no special kind of mud pack you could buy at the Jordan River gift shop and spread on your skin. I mean, even though the Jordan was a landmark that represented freedom to the Jewish people, it was still just a river. Sort of like the place where many of you were baptized. It was just a pool. It was just an ocean. It was just a river. It was just a lake. It was just a pond. It was just a hot tub. There's nothing magical about the water at all. But gang, there is something incredibly magical about the healing grace of God that we encountered there. When our humility and our obedience met Jesus in that water, we were made new through him. Look what it says in Romans 6. It says, for we died. Our old person died, and we were buried with Christ by baptism. And just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glorious power of the Father, now we also may live new lives. And so many of us in this place have found healing and freedom and wholeness and brand new lives, not through the water, but through faith in Jesus Christ. So Naaman's ticked. He's confused, he's disappointed, he's desperate, and he's mumbling under his breath, and he's walking around blowing off steam. And his men, his soldiers, courageously kind of step up to settle him down. And they say, well, sir, listen, if the prophet had told you to do something like very difficult, wouldn't you have done it? So we're just thinking you should certainly obey him when he simply says, just go wash and be cured. I mean, don't you love people that can speak into your anger? Don't you just love people that can help clear your head and help you gain perspective? I'm talking about good friends who will say, okay, dude, I know you're mad. I know this is not going exactly the way you were hoping it would go, but honestly, I mean, what he's asking you to do is not that hard. You ought to give it a shot. I mean, who knows? It might just work. Aren't those kind of people in your life an absolute gift? They just are. And I think it's also cool the respect that Naaman's guys obviously have for him. It says something about his character. It says something about his leadership. First of all, a servant girl cared deeply about him. Then his king stepped up, and now his guys obviously love him and want him to be healed. So he had to be like a good-hearted guy. And I think it shows in that Naaman doesn't argue with them. Eventually, he just calms down and says, you're right. And I was thinking, man, if we just say that more often to the people in our life that are trying to speak wisdom into our life. Mom, Dad, you're right. Honey, you're right. You know what, man, you're right. And Naaman eventually says, you know what, you're right. I mean, we came all this way. I mean, if that's what he says to do, I at least ought to give it a shot. Verse 14, so Naaman goes down to the Jordan River and dips himself 7 times as the man of God had instructed him. And his skin became as healthy as the skin of a young child, and he was healed. Now, Elisha told him to dip how many times? 7 times in the Jordan. Now, in the Bible, the number 7 is the number for completion. And gang, I'm learning that's what healing and freedom takes. You have to follow through. You have to keep dipping. You have to keep dying to yourself. You have to keep surrendering every day to God's power and grace. You have to keep showing up for church. You have to keep showing up for small group. You have to keep going to AA and NA and CR meetings. And you have to keep working all the steps. Integrate them into your life. This whole humble, dependent upon God way of walking just has to be our new normal. It's not a one-time go under the water. It's a dip in the Jordan 7 times type of everyday lifestyle of surrender. Verse 15, then Naaman and his entire party went back to find the man of God, Elisha. They stood before him, and Naaman said, now I know that there is no God in all the world except in Israel. So please accept the gift from your servant. I mean, the guy's extremely grateful. He said, listen, I live in a culture where there's all these little g gods. I mean, here a God, there a God, everywhere a God where I live, with no power whatsoever. But there is no one like your God. He healed me. Here, I brought 750 pounds of silver, 150 pounds of gold, 10 sets of clothing. It's all yours. Well, Elijah won't take anything. And he won't take credit. He says, as surely as the Lord lives whom I serve, I won't accept any gifts. And though Naaman urged him to take the gift, Elisha refused because it was not about him. Again, his goal in life was to throw this huge floodlight on God. Now, if you read the rest of the chapter, you can do it when you get home. Elijah's assistant says, dude, are you crazy? Did you see how much stuff that guy had? He was loaded. So he sneaks out later, runs and meets Naaman on the road, and he's out of breath, and he gets there and says, excuse me, sir, things have changed. We had some unexpected company, and Elijah sent me to say, we could use some cash after all. Really? And Naaman says, well, okay, have at it. The guy totally lies and tries to hide the stuff and what he's done from Elisha, and let's just say it doesn't go well for him. You can read it. That's another lesson for another day. But in this moment, Elisha is saying, listen, I can't take credit. I didn't do anything. I didn't wave my hand over you. I didn't even come out to meet you face to face. And you know why? Because I wanted you to know it's the power of the living God. The power of God met you in your obedience. And even though you reluctantly went down to the river, Still, you did. And you eventually humbled yourself and you got in, and not just once, but 7 times. And God met you there in your faith. And Naaman, he just wants you to know the power of God's not for sale. His grace is free. He just loves you, Naaman. And he wants you to be healed. You guys ever struggle with that whole free thing? I mean, we can be, come on, can't be free. Free, nothing's free. Got to be a catch. There's got to be something more that I have to do. This whole thing just can't be free. Just tell me. Tell me what I need to do. Tell me what I have to pay. You know, I love what it says in the book of Revelation, kind of toward the end of the Bible. In chapter 22, verse 17, it says, "The Spirit and the bride say, 'Come.' And let the one who hears say, 'Come.' Let the one who is thirsty come, and let the one who wishes to take the free gift of the water of life." Gang, this invitation to a brand new life, this inside-out healing, this freedom, this eternal life in heaven is free, paid for on a bloodstained cross. Ephesians chapter 2 puts it this way: God saved you by his grace when you believed, and you can't take credit for this. It is a gift from God. Salvation is not a reward for the good things that we have done, so none of us can boast about it. It's just a free gift from a God who is crazy about you. I love what Naaman does next. He says, "All right, but would you please allow me to load 2 of my mules with earth from this place so I can take it back home with me?" It's like he's saying, if you won't accept anything, could I have some dirt? He just said, I need a reminder of the holiness of this place. If I could just take some dirt and like spread it in my garden, or maybe fill up our planters with it, or maybe I'll put it in a jar and set it on my kitchen counter or on my desk, it would help remind me of this day. It would also give me a chance to talk about how the God in Israel is the true and living God of the universe. From now on, I will never again offer burnt offerings or sacrifices to any other little g god except the Lord. And then I love this. He goes, however, may the Lord pardon me in this one thing. When my master, the king, goes into the temple of the god called Rimmon to worship there and leans on my arm, may the Lord pardon me when I bow too. Just know I won't be bowing in my heart. I just got to do my job with the king. Because I know now there is only one true God, and my allegiance will always be to him. Elijah says, well, go in peace. So Naaman started home again, completely healed from his leprosy. But more importantly, now in touch with his Creator, the lover of his soul. And it's just such a cool story. I hadn't read it in a long, long time. And as I read it, I couldn't help but think about a phrase that Jesus said to a guy that he would heal, like centuries later. It's found over in John chapter 5. The setting is there's this guy, he's lying by a pool in downtown Jerusalem. And this pool was thought to have these magical healing properties. And this guy had been an invalid for 38 years. And Jesus walks up, and it says, when Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, do you want to get well? And I used to think, come on, Jesus, 38 years? You're asking the guy, do you want to get well? What a stupid question. But gang, I've been around long enough now to realize it's not a stupid question. Because some of us don't. I mean, I know personally. We aren't willing to surrender to what we know God is asking us to do. We're not willing to go dip in the Jordan 7 times. Instead, we say, oh, I got this. No, I got this. I'm good. Not a problem, not a problem. I have worked with so many people through the years who were just living in denial, saying, you know, my alcohol's not a problem. I mean, come on, it's just pot. It's just a little meth. It's not, I wouldn't call it like an addiction. I don't have anger issues. I don't have anger issues. I'm not codependent. I don't have any trust or forgiveness issues. My fears are not irrational. My relationships are not dysfunctional. And besides, I can fix this on my own. Really? I used to say that too until I heard somebody say, if you could have, you would have, but you can't, so you won't. Like Naaman, this tough guy, this mighty warrior of a man, he couldn't heal himself. And neither will we. I love what the Apostle Paul writes later in 2 Corinthians, he says, man, we felt like we were doomed to die. And we saw how powerless we were to help ourselves. But that was good. That was good, for then we put everything into the hands of God, who alone could save us. And gang, I've been learning that there is power in powerlessness. When you and I humble ourselves and admit our weaknesses, then God's strength has permission to begin to flow through us and help us walk free. Healing takes a power greater than ourself. And you need to know this. There is only one thing in the universe that is stronger than the power of God. You know what that is? His desire to love you. His desire to help you. His desire to pull you out and lead your life and set you free. Bill W., one of the founders of AA, referring to his and other miraculous relief from alcoholism, once wrote, "We found that God could and would if he were sought. We found that God could and would if he were sought." And if that's true, as millions of recovering addicts can attest to, then isn't it also possible that God can't and won't if he's not? See, I think God gives us a choice. Through the double-edged sword of free will, he asks, do you want to get well? And the surrender of our will to the will and supernatural power of God is the pathway to healing and freedom. As long as we live in denial of a problem, as long as we try to work the whole image management thing, pretending that everything's fine, really, it's fine. As long as we try to hang on to our pride and fix things by ourselves, as long as we won't listen to other people in our life, as long as you and I refuse to go down to the Jordan and do what he asked us to do, as long as we are content just to live another year in that spin cycle of fail, guilt, shame, hate myself, hide, promise, try harder, fail, guilt, shame, as long as we don't really want the change, as long as we don't really want to get well, we will lack the power to ever change. The power lies in the admission of powerlessness. The first words that come out of Jesus' mouth when he launched in that famous sermon called the Sermon on the Mount, he said, listen, blessed are the broken, blessed are the busted, those who are poor in spirit, those who will acknowledge their spiritual bankruptcy and humble themselves and ask for help and hunger for God, because they will be comforted and they will be filled and their lives will be turned around. They will find the same thing that Naaman discovered, that God could and would if he were sought. I'm not sure where I first heard it, but I've had it written in the margin of my Bible for decades now. And I think I've said it here before. But it's this quote: the greatness of a person is in direct proportion to their measure of surrender. The greatness of a man, the greatness of a woman is in direct proportion to their measure of surrender. It wasn't the magic water of the Jordan River that saved Naaman, this mighty warrior of a man. It was his surrender to do what God was asking him to do. And when you and I surrender, when we quit trying to be the mighty warrior, we quit trying to play God, we quit trying to call all the shots, and we humble ourselves, then God moves in and we'll finally have the right person in charge of our life and the right kind of power it takes to change, lasting change, inside-out transformation. I think I've told you before, I get to be a part of a little Monday morning Bible study in Ventura with a bunch of guys, and we've gone through Matthew, verse by verse. We went through John, verse by verse. Went through the book of Acts, verse by verse. And we just finished up Philippians. And in this group, most of the guys in the group have some kind of recovery stuff. I mean, all of us are in recovery from something. But most of these guys have had drug and alcohol issues. Some have been clean and sober for a few years, others only a few days, and some are not even there yet. But this verse we ran across in our study of Philippians gave all of us so much hope. Look what it says. For God is working in you, giving you the desire and the power to do what pleases him. Did you catch that? When we allow God, when we humble ourselves and we allow God to go to work in us, he will give us both the want to and the how to, the desire and the power. So when Jesus asks us, do you want to get well? He's asking, are you willing to surrender and let me work in you? Are you willing to finally let me lead? When he asks, do you want to get well? He's asking, do you want the responsibility of doing what I ask you to do, to walk toward wholeness and walk toward freedom? I will transform you. I alone have the power to do that. I'm just asking you to cooperate by doing some of the things that only you can do. In other words, you do what you need to do, and God will do what only he can do. And you know what? I've been learning that there are some things that God won't do for you. Now, don't get me wrong, he will transform us. Only he has the power to do that. But he wants our humble and dependent cooperation. He won't be honest about your junk for you. He won't go to rehab or meetings for you. He won't get in a healthy community for you. He won't renew your mind for you. He won't take your meds for you. He won't let go of bitterness and resentment and make amends for you. He won't think on things that are noble and right and pure and lovely and excellent for you. He won't let the word of Christ dwell in you richly for you. He won't cast all your anxiety on him for you. He won't walk with the wise for you. He won't serve the least of these for you. He won't forgive as you've been forgiven for you. He won't practice gratitude for you. He won't practice generosity for you. He won't humble yourself for you. Those are things that you and I do. And as we humbly and consistently do those things, just make it a part of the regular dip in the Jordan 7 times rhythm of our life, he continues to do that inside-out transformation. Naaman didn't get it at first. He didn't get it. He said, what? Seriously? But the dude was desperate. And at the prompting of loving friends, he just started walking the right direction. And he got down the river and he stuck a toe in, and then an ankle, then a knee. Then he got all the way in. And I've known so many people who started out saying, hey, what? No, I don't think so. Okay, I'll go to one meeting. Go to church with you? No, not for me. Oh, okay, I'll go one time. And they just started moving the right direction. And then, like Naaman, they went the whole way, like 7 times. They just kept going. They kept working the program. They stayed in the group. They just started making prayer and worship and scripture and serving a regular part of their life. They just started doing the right thing, just started moving the right direction. And just like with Naaman, God rewarded their obedience and humility. And he brought freedom and healing into their life. Here's a great word directly from the Father who loves you. It's found in Isaiah chapter 57, and this is what God says to all of us. I've seen what they do. I know all about it. They're not hiding anything from me. But I'll heal them anyway. I will lead them. I will comfort those who mourn, bringing words of praise to their lips. May they have abundant peace, both near and far, says the Lord who heals them. So since that is true, the question remains, you want to get well? God can and will, if he saw it. Let's pray about that. Father, you are the only true and living God. There is no one like you. Jesus, we know that you tell us that if the Son sets us free, we'll be free indeed. And God, here we are, 5 or 6 weeks in from the start of a new year, one that began with hope and promises. And now we're wavering, wondering, you know what, this hope thing, this healing thing, this freedom thing, that's just a pipe dream. I'll never change. It'll never be any different. God, we know it can be different if we would just humble ourselves and cooperate with you and say to you, Jesus, when you ask us, yes, I do want to get well. I want this to be different. I want my relationships to be healed. I want my body. I want my emotions. I want all these memories. I want all this stronghold that this stuff's got a grip on me. I want to be free from it all. I want you to come into my life, Jesus. I want your power in my life to give me the desire and the power to get well and to walk free. Father, I pray that happens right now. That there is humility and surrender happening all over this place right now in hearts. Just saying, okay, I'm finally done doing this myself. I want to invite Jesus Christ to come into my life. Father, I pray that happens. I thank you that there is more for all of us if we would just lay it down and surrender. And I pray it happens at all of our campuses this weekend. I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you for joining us. We really hope God spoke to you, but we don't want this conversation to end here. We want to continue this conversation with you throughout the week. That's why we have our online Facebook group, CCV Online Campus. You can join today, invite your friends to join, and we'll continue this conversation with you. I hope to connect with you really soon.